Hi, Ron from Clarity. Today we'll be covering a bi-directional sync from Shopify to Syspro. This client had to sync sales orders, invoice creation, products inventory, and finally refunds. In this video, we'll show live syncs for all 5 of those workflows. Now, in production, these syncs will be run automatically, but for today's video, I'm going to trigger them manually so we can watch them process in real time. This client's configuration consists of a corporate Syspro installation with 2 Shopify stores being integrated, one in Canada, the other in the US. All workflows are set up to process all 3 applications. To kick things off, I'll start with sales orders. We start off with 1 new order in each store that I've already created. In the US store, order number 1053 has 3 items which are yet to be fulfilled. In the Canadian store, order 1162 for a British banger at $9.99 has a $5 discount applied for a total of $4.99, which will come into play later. Heading into Connect, we'll trigger our Process Sales Orders workflow, wait for it to hit the processing queue, and drill in. The first workflow to kick off says it's processing Canadian sales orders, and we can see that it's processing our Shopify sales order 1162 as Syspro order ID 000329. Next, it kicks off the second workflow to process US sales orders, and we can see that it's processing our new Shopify sales order 1053 in as Syspro order incrementally 330. Over in Syspro, we search for order 329, and we can see our customer order 1162, which is the British banger, being fulfilled from the Canadian warehouse, originally listed at $9.99, but with our discount applied has an ending outstanding order and invoice value of $4.99. Updating our search for order 330, we find the US order 1053 for 3 items, fulfilled from the US warehouse with an outstanding value of $30.44. Back into Shopify, you can see our sync bidirectionally added a tag to each of our Shopify orders, adding in the Syspro order IDs, 329 in the Canadian store and 330 in the US store, correlating to what we saw in Syspro. Now that we have our outstanding orders, let's fulfill them, which will kick off the invoicing process. To start in Shopify, we'll go ahead and fulfill an order that's been created. For Shopify order 1053 in the US store for 3 items, you can see that we've tagged it as fulfilled for Syspro order 330. Again, this Syspro order ID was pulled back during the original sales order sync. Next, we'll hop over to the Canadian store and see that order 1162 is unfulfilled, so we'll drill in and fulfill this order for the single item as well. Now that the order status has been updated to fulfilled, we can head over to Connect and trigger the Process Invoices Workflow, drill in and watch it process, and see that it's first processing the Canadian invoices, then moves into processing US invoices. Here you can see it's processing our order 1053. Those fulfilled orders have now invoked the creation of Syspro invoices number 150 for 1162 and invoice 151 for order 1053 respectively. So to verify the sync, we head over to Syspro and look for a new invoice number 150, which corresponds to the Canadian order 1162, which we see here, billed for in Canadian dollars for the single item displayed in the sales order invoice detail lines. Next, we'll search for invoice 151, and after it loads, we see that it corresponds to the US order 1053, but in US dollars, for the 3 items we fulfilled and are being billed for in this invoice. The product sync we built for this client syncs products that are created and controlled in Syspro to both the US and Canadian stores. To start, we're going to sync this product ID PKBBN 8002 to the Canadian store, which I'm searching for to ensure that it doesn't exist already. Once verified, I'll head over to the US store and verify the ECCEB 10003 doesn't exist over here, which you can see that it does not. Next, we'll go over to Syspro and make sure that both of these products have been created, which they have. So we head over to Connect and trigger the Process Products workflow, see it show up in the processing queue, drill in and watch it process both the US and Canadian workflows. First, in the Canadian store, we search for our synced product, and at first glance I can't find it. Then I remembered that the client wanted it to be synced as a draft product first. Then, after their hired marketing agency writes and fills in the product description and images, the product will be switched to active. The sync did, however, sync over the product title, price, SKU, vendor, and any other required information from Syspro. Over in the US instance, we look for the other product and find that it was also synced over as a draft with the title, product, SKU, and more, synced and ready for the marketing agency to come and make it pretty. One interesting feature with this client's integration is that this client produces many of the products on demand, and as such, they want the inventory to not be tracked. In other words, it's going to always be available with an unlimited quantity in both stores. To test this, if we go into our workflow in Shopify and check the box to track quantity on this ECCB 10003 product, inventory should start being reported and tracked in the storefront for this product. To see how we've dealt with this, we'll pop over to Connect and run the process inventory workflow, drill into the process, and watch the sync. As you can see again, it processed two separate workflows during the sync. The first process was to validate in Shopify that all products are not tracking the inventory, and then check for active Syspro products to display for the Canadian store. The second repeats the process, but for the US storefront. Once it's successfully processed, we head back over to Shopify, hit refresh, and see that it's automatically turned off our checkbox and made the product actively available with an unlimited quantity again, making Syspro the source of truth for controlling the inventory for all products in both stores. For our last sync, this client allows online refunds for both locations. Starting in the US store, we've partially refunded our order, $8.26 for one item. In the Canadian store, we fully refunded order 1162 as shown here. So now that we've completed the refunding in the stores, we'll head over to Connect and trigger the processed refund sync workflow, watch it hit the queue, and drill in. As with the other syncs, it will run the US and Canadian workflows separately against each store, processing the refunds into Syspro. First, we head into the Canadian Shopify store, and you can see these three tags associated with the order. Once I hit the refresh button, it's added another couple of tags to the store. One is the refund ID, and the other is the credit note on the account. Over to the US store, you can also see the refund ID and credit note added to this order, in this case credit note 80020. Now credit notes are added to Syspro as credit invoices, so when we head over to Syspro, we need to search for credit note 80020, and when it loads, you can see it's actually an invoice for an order and ship quantity of -1 with an $8.26 refund amount, matching the partial refund we processed for US order 1053. Heading over to see what the credit number is in the Canadian store, we can see that it's credit note CN 80021. So back into Syspro and we adjust our search for 21, and after it loads, we see that it's the Canadian refund for one item, quantity -1, with a refund amount of $4.99, completing our automated refund processing for both stores into our corporate Syspro instance. So in summary, we started in Shopify by creating an order in each of our storefronts and synced them into Syspro, processing the orders to each of the Canadian and US warehouses as needed. We then fulfilled the orders in both locations and synced that into Syspro, which created the invoices and billed the clients in their respective currencies. Next, we told a product to start tracking inventory accidentally, and our inventory process found the error and fixed it, along with syncing all active products from Syspro. Next, we checked to see that we were missing some of the products in the stores, and we synced all products from Syspro into the correct storefronts per the Syspro configuration. Finally, we went in and processed a partial refund on the US order and a full refund on the Canadian order and synced those into Syspro, completing our demo of all 5 automated business workflows. So that's our Clarity Shopify to Syspro bi-directional integration solution. Hope to see you in another integration video. Thanks for watching.